Hello, and be welcome. No doubt if you were to look outside right now, you will see the stirring emanations of Christmas all around. Well, as Edgar Allan Poe said, "'Tis the season to be jolly, but beneath all the mistletoe and sugar plum fairies, there's darkness as well. The nights have grown long, and cold winter winds send chills down our spines, and flickering candlelight throws ominous shadows, making this the perfect season to tell ghost stories. And that remains true, for within the world of darkness, as all throughout history, the many entities that inhabit the world of darkness have been at work during this holiday season. So, in celebration of the spirit of Yuletide, let us visit some of our favorite snippets of events and exchanges which have taken place in the world of darkness and helped shape it during this most dark and jolly of holidays. Venturing first into the dark medieval, where you may be surprised to know, on December 24th, Christmas Eve, attending midnight mass at Villars Abbey in Belgium had become a popular affair for the local Cainites. The festival began in 1188, the brainchild of the Toreador coterie that oversaw the construction of the abbey to its completion. At the conclusion of the midnight worship, the doors of the church are barred and the attending mortals assailed, and a great orgy of blood commenced into the wee hours of the morning of Christmas. Another interesting to note, as is listed in the book Los Angeles by Night, the coming of Christopher Hugton, secretive master behind the Anarch Free States, was also marked on Christmas Day. You see, in 1828, the American brig Danube, sailing from Boston to points unknown, was wrecked in San Pedro Bay during a terrible storm. The locals fought valiantly to rescue as many of the crew and passengers as they could, and to salvage as much of the cargo as possible. Part of that cargo was a long coffin shaped box, which the owner seemed particularly anxious to recover. In typical hacienda fashion, the local landowners took in the 28 survivors. The box's owner, a Yankee named Jack Turbin, was given shelter on the rancho owned by Don Sebastian Juan Dominguez and his family. Unfortunately for the good Don, the box held the body of Christopher Hugton, a 200-year-old vampire with the face of an angel, the cunning of a Toreador elder, and the psyche of a 13-year-old boy. Christopher had been cast out of Massachusetts for what amounted to artistic differences, blown horribly out of proportion by the over-refined sensibilities of the Toreadors. He had fled Boston with their laughter still ringing in his ears, searching for a place where a true artist could be appreciated. Yet, disgusted with both the old world and the new, he had planned to force the Danube to take him to distant Cathay, where he was sure he would receive the respect he felt he deserved. Yet upon arising from his sleep and finding his plans frustrated once again, Christopher completely lost it. He killed Turpin, the one ghoul retainer who had followed him into exile, and slaughtered the entire Dominguez family with the exception of Don Sebastian, who fled and hid in the chicken coop. When Christopher eventually recovered from his frenzy, he hunted down Don Sebastian, explained the situation, and made him his ghoul. Christopher stayed on the rancho, feeding on the local Indians and making his plans. He finally decided that he was going to turn this sleepy little village into a new Carthage and show those East Coast decadents the way a city should be run. Scores of vampires would look to him for artistic leadership and call him master. The first thing he needed was a secure base, since local missionaries had begun to look upon the rancho with considerable suspicion. Thus, in 1834, by carefully wielding the not inconsiderable power of Don Sebastian, Christopher convinced Governor Figuera to go ahead with the long-planned and long-delayed secularization of the missions. Their lands were seized and their assets sold, and by 1844, the entire mission system had been dismantled. For the first time in his 200-year unlife, Christopher found himself without any parental figure, without anyone to tell him what to do or threaten his safety. Predictably, he went wild. For the next 35 years, Christopher indulged himself in every debauchery which he had seen practiced in the vice dens of Europe, but which his straight-laced master had never allowed. Don Sebastian's once pristine rancho became an abattoir ruled by a golden-haired, wild-eyed demon, drunk with his freedom and power. He lived there with just Don Sebastian as his retainer until 1853, when he discovered and embraced Joaquim Murrieta. From that point on, Joaquim was always at his side, transferring his fanatical hatred of mankind in general to Christopher's enemies. The United States acquisition of California in 1847 was an almost accidental byproduct of the Mexican-American War. Although he had very little involvement in the war, he welcomed this development since it brought new settlers into the region. While the discovery of gold in Northern California in 1848 at first caused a huge drop in the population of Los Angeles, settlers flocking to the city quickly replaced those who went seeking gold. Kindred scholars have noted that communities take on the complexion of the kindred who dwell there, and that is certainly the case for Los Angeles, as from 1845 until 1870, Los Angeles had the reputation of being one of the most debauched towns in America. Christopher's New Carthage attracted disappointed prospectors, thieves, murderers, and degenerates of every kind. Homicides averaged one per day, and murdered Indians were not included in that number. Los Angeles probably had more gambling dens, saloons, and brothels per capita than anywhere else in the country. What very little law there was came in the form of lynch gangs who tended to string up the most convenient suspect. This is what led into Christopher's dream. Things suddenly changed for him and Los Angeles in 1870, as one night the realization struck him that he was wasting his own life and dissipating his precious resources. He had lost his dream of a new Carthage and an orgy of blood. He needed to build a city that would attract the kind of vampires to make this city a mecca for artists of every kind. Unaware that he was being manipulated by powers infinitely more powerful than himself, Christopher began to change, and with him, so did Los Angeles. The last lynching occurred in 1871. While bookstores, libraries, and dancing academies began appearing. If Los Angeles was going to become everything Christopher wanted, it needed more people to support those new vampires. Just 5,000 people lived there, and only the city's huge mortality rate had allowed Joaquim and Christopher to hide their depredations. Thus, Christopher resolved that until he was completely ready, nobody would know who the true master of Los Angeles was. His humiliation at the hands of the Boston Toreador 40 years earlier still burned in him, and he refused to put himself into that situation again. Don Sebastian, who still maintained considerable power in California, would become his front man and govern the city as his regent. So on Christmas Day, December 25th, 1870, 42 years to the day after he landed, Christopher granted Don Sebastian immortality and crowned him Prince of Los Angeles. I'm not certain as to your thoughts on the matter, but I would say that is a very fitting and well-received Christmas present, especially for 42 years of loyal service. Yet it is not merely kindred who are active. And while there is a glossary of things that we could cover, one of the more interesting anecdotes may come in the form of the Arcanum, which, as you may recall from our Victorian chronicles, as we've been posting, were founded in the Victorian era, a short time ahead of while Christopher and Don Sebastian were getting the groundwork started on what would become one of the largest cities in the world. Naturally, such a secular order has a great deal of rituals, and you may be surprised to know that one of them takes place on Christmas Day. From the diary of Winthrop Murray, 25th of December, 1885. It is well-known fact that rituals exist to serve many purposes. On the social level, the practice of rituals helps to maintain a sense of continuity, a feeling of tradition, as we do now. So have our forebears done, and shall our successors do. Ritual is a visible link between generations. Many truths are symbolically expressed through ritual, for these simple acts may often clothe the ideals and beliefs of an organization. Ritual is the vehicle through which man may travel beyond the realm of his immediate experience. Holmcroft knew these things when he created the rituals of the Arcanum. I fully suspect that the rituals he presented to us had been in practice since long before the formation of the Arcanum. I saw much of what had been adopted from the Horde system of rituals, but much of what Holmcroft initiated was of origins unknown to me. Holmcroft, when questioned, answered with complete candor that these rituals had descended from the mysteries of Ulysses and Orpheus, from the sacred cults of Isis and Osiris. This, of course, must have been some fabrication, or perhaps embellishment is more an appropriate term, on his part, for such rites were oral and have been lost through time. Regardless, Holmcroft has insisted that the rituals of the Arcanum remain oral as well. It is unlawful to write them down or repeat them outside of their context. Tonight we shall officiate at the first ritual, our initiation into the Arcanum. Thus we shall become something more than merely an intellectual venture. 26th December, 1885. I write this after having returned from our initiation, a truly moving and powerful event. I would almost believe that the muses themselves were evoked this night. Brown, however, was absent, whether he had Yuletide activities to attend to, as would be expected of one of his office, or whether he refused to participate in clearly pagan activity has yet to be seen. On a lighter note, Holmcroft has announced that news of our venture has been spreading throughout the occult community, and a number of other scholars and students have expressed interest in joining our fellowship. To think that such a monumentous occasion would transpire on Christmas. Lastly, we will go to the diary of Lumbach Ruthven, my personal favorite example of all of these interesting side notes revolving around the world of darkness and Christmas. This one taking us the farthest into the future, into what most of us recognize as the gothic punk world of the world of darkness. 12/24/97. Christmas Eve. A fitting time for ghosts to walk, yes? I write this to you, my beloved Clara, though you have lain in that tiny churchyard in Silesia for nearly 700 years. I always did love you. Thoughts of you comfort me in the still hours when in my inner eye rears laughing Tepesh, or that ineffable other of whom Tepesh is but a merest silhouette. Tonight they will sojourn, Vikos, Chormbry, Devon, and the rest. They will stalk Greenwich Village, Harlem, and the Upper West Side. They will celebrate the solstice retie in the old fashion, just as they did among nameless village crossroads not very long ago. They will celebrate what it means to be Tzimisce, to be Sabbat, to be free. I am very drunk. Do you know what I do now, Clara? I go amid the rotting lanes of the Bowery, and there I feed for rancid derelicts. I do believe I carry AIDS, Clara. So the whispered legends of our kind are true. A virus runs through my cold, dead corpse. My apologies for the strange juxtaposition and stream of consciousness. Yes, that is the term. Nature of this missive. Since you are dead, I think you will care little. But Ginevra tells me there is an order even among the shades. Such a pity. They will throw their heads to the stagnant sky and howl in the old tongues. They will gorge themselves on the terror-laced vitae of dozens of suicides and domestic disputes and missing persons. Above all, they will reenact the most hallowed of nights, when mighty Lugos stood alone and rampant in that crumbling church, when he ripped aside the flagstones to reveal... I cannot even write of it, Clara. Not in my little brick cocoon, miles and oceans parted from bloody old Europe. I am a coward and a weakling. I am a lord of the Sabbat. Above all, Clara, I am a good lad. I was at a Zantosa fete over a month ago. The subject of Lugosi's night arose again. One would think that after 550 years, being so brilliant as we Tzimisce would have something more entertaining to talk about. I felt I should go mad as one of the Malcavs get, and I wanted to stand up, to scream at them all, to speak of what I saw that night. Could they not see the webs of blood binding them like scarlet grave shrouds? The eldest of the host family, Hoary old Istvan Zantoza took me aside. He leered at me then, and though I was in the grip of a powerful hallucinogenics manufactured by our Nosferatu allies below, I heard his whisper like a scream reverberating throughout the subterranean caverns. Be a good lad. And then, still grinning, he tapped his cane once, twice, thrice on the brownstone floor. There are catacombs beneath the Zantoza home, and these connect to the subways and the sewer systems of the Nosferatu, and where those lead, even I know not. All I know is that the tunnels wind gaping and forgotten, like a black maw waiting to swallow the surface world. The sewer rats, it seems, have outsmarted themselves. No one, even the eldest among the Nosferatu, knows the chambers and corridors in their entirety. Anything, anyone, could be down there, safe and anonymic in the dark. New York is our stronghold, the soul of the sect. There are close to 10 million kine in the metropolitan area. Our seraphs meet here, and our voivod often calls the clan to gather among the skyscrapers. Truly, on any given night, one could not find a more concentrated registry of luminaries among the damned. On any given night, so much blood, so much blood. A scarlet web of blood, enough to sate. I grow weary of the subject, Clara. I shall write of it no more, and instead shall lose myself among the currents of shoppers and celebrants, like Jacob Marley's wailing ghost. Let the others snare themselves more tightly in their blood rites and savage games. Let them take pride in what it is to be Zemisi. I already know what I am far better than any of them, I think. I am a good lad. And with that concludes this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday from all of us here at the World of Radish. And if you can, spare Lumbach a drink sometime. He's a bit down in the dumps.